Altos is brought to you with the kind compliments of Rituals Coffee House.
Good evening and welcome to Altos, a weekly news and current affairs program produced by the Catholic News and broadcast here on Trinity TV and on TTT. I'm Neil Parsonlal. Here's a look at this week's top stories. Two women of faith speak on their calling to help the less fortunate as they prepare to be honored for their work. Meet a retired priest who is giving selflessly in his own small way to help the poor. Bishop Clyde Harvey has a message for politicians. He says political differences must not be allowed to turn into political murder. And later, we are privileged to be joined on the Altos set by Acting Prime Minister Stuart Young as we discuss energy matters and the Trinidad and Tobago economy. Now here's a look at our top story. Living Water co-founder Rhonda Mango and Deborah DeRosier, the director of 4 non-profit organizations, are both true examples of the word inspiration. Through divine influence, these two women have dedicated their lives to their respective causes for the upliftment of everyone. For their selflessness and impact on the society, they will both be honored next Tuesday, September 17th by the International Women's Forum of Trinidad and Tobago at the Hyatt Regency Hotel. Both women spoke with Altos correspondent Clysha Best.
Rhonda Mango and Deborah DeRosier have both done their part in different ways to spread the word and goodness of God and help the poor. For Mango, her calling came many years ago from God, and it's a journey that she's never regretted.
When the Lord entered my life one evening, I had an experience of God, and I heard the Lord speak very, very clearly to me and loud, said to me, I call you to love and to show the world how to love. And when I reflect on that, I feel so often and so many times I have so far to go. So that's my one regret in my journey. But it's not a regret, it's just I'm a human being and I depend on the grace of God to answer that call. And I thank God for giving me that grace in the way that He has to answer it in the way that I have.
She found inspiration from the saints like Mother Teresa, Padre Pio, and got the inspiration to start Trinity TV from Mother Angelica's EWTN. Receiving this award, she said, will raise awareness of the work being done by the Living Water community, part of which is caring for the poor, the homeless, and helping migrants.
And I feel very humbled about it, and plenty praise and thanks to God for that.
As an educator, Sister Debbie told Altos she is humbled that God has called her to work with those who are unable to help themselves.
To receive an award is simply to give recognition to a people who understand that there are always others alongside them, behind them, and before them. Those who carry you and those that you need to bring with you. And there are those behind you who are pushing you as well.
She started to teach as a young girl, and every student was important.
As far as I'm concerned, we need to care. And caring goes beyond ourselves.
Her one wish is to help the families of murder victims and bring them to know the love of Jesus.
I can't understand how every day 3-4 persons are being killed, a father and a child being killed, 5 persons in a home or in a village. And I don't know who says to these people, we are standing with you. Everybody needs somebody.
I am Clysha Best, reporting for Catholic News, Altos.
Mango will receive the inaugural Spirit Inspirational Legacy Award, while Deborah DeRosier will be given the Champion of Women Award. 2 other women will be honored. They are Professor Judith Gobing and Akuska Dardane Edwards. Retired Roman Catholic priest Father Joseph Jubersing says many people are suffering in this country, and he has launched an initiative to do his small part to help. Father Jubersing, who was ordained to the priesthood in 1967, now spends his time in what is an act of love, raising funds to help the poor and needy We have more in this report.
If you are at the St. Philip and St. James RC Church in Chaguanas for the Thursday midday Mass, then you will be familiar with the sight of Father Joseph Jubra Singh selling some goodies. The sign says it all, raising funds for the poor, and the table is laid out with boxes containing sugar cakes, kuchela, tulum, and other delicacies. Few know that Father Jubra Singh himself makes some of these items, including the cherry juice, guava cheese, and mango cheese. It's all part of his act of love to help those less fortunate. The money from the sales and donations given through the goodwill and assistance of others provides the money he needs to buy basic foodstuff wholesale to distribute to needy families, with the assistance of a longtime friend, a Hindu priest.
What I do, I purchase all the goods, flour, rice, oil, sugar, tuna. I buy it wholesale, and I would give it to him. And he knows the families that are in need of it. So we do it more or less 4 times a year.
He has been doing this for the past 15 years and has been moved by the generosity of people. He says with many living in poverty and unable to feed themselves, giving assistance 4 times a year is better than doing nothing.
Well, the one thing is that people need support today more than ever. And whatever way we can help people, we do it all the time.
Father Jubra Singh's act of love came to the fore recently when Shelford Arthur, a parishioner, took a photo and posted it on Facebook. Parish priest Father Steve Ransom told Altos the parish is very happy to be part of this selfless initiative.
I just feel privileged that Father requested the use of this space and this parish so that he could continue the good work. So praise God for that.
Father Ransom said people are encouraged to support Father Jubra Singh, and from what he's seen, he is happy with the generosity shown.
We thank Father Jubra Singh for his efforts. Bishop John Passard of Mandeville, Jamaica, is urging catechists to be the presence of Jesus to those whom they serve. Bishop Passard made the appeal in a message in observance of Catechetical Month.
If our church in this region is to be a visible sign of God's presence and promote the reign of God, then it is incumbent on us to act as Jesus would. He is here through each of us, and catechists must help people realize how they make Jesus present to the space and people they find themselves in and with.
The theme for this year's Catechetical Month is Catechists, Missionaries of Healing and Service, and Bishop Passard urged catechists to help others to live consciously as people of God. September is traditionally designated as Catechetical Month, when those involved in faith formation are celebrated and honored. You can read more of the Bishop's message in this Sunday's issues of the Catholic News. And turning now to Grenada, Bishop Clyde Harvey of St. George's in Grenada is of the opinion that while political differences exist in countries, those differences must not be allowed to turn into what he calls political murder. Speaking with Good News Catholic Communications in Grenada on the topic, The Unity of the Nation, Differences Not Hate, Truth as a Value, Bishop Harvey said some politicians believe the only way to get what they want is by keeping the population divided.
But we must never allow our differences to turn into hate or into political murder. And what do I mean by that? The assassination of character, which seems to go along with so much of our political talk. Grenada is too small for that kind of nonsense. And therefore, I myself have hoped from time to time that there might be occasions when the very occasion can force us together. To be quite frank, I think we've missed a marvelous opportunity with Beryl to really stand together in the service of our people.
He recalled that his first message when he came to Grenada as bishop was truth and trust, which he still believes must be brought into life encounters and political discourse. But he lamented that far too often, ego gets in the way. And in some international news, Over 700,000 people gathered for Holy Mass with the Pope in Timor-Leste on the third stop of his 12-day Asian tour. The Vatican estimates that 96% of the country is Catholic. During Mass on Wednesday, the Pope praised the country for its vibrancy. Here is Rome Reports with more.
In his homily, the Pope reflected on the birth of the child Jesus and the goodness that newborns bring to the world. He then applauded the culture of youth in East Timor, as it is one of the youngest countries in the world, with a median age of just 20 years old.
This reality is beautiful in Timor-Leste because there are so many children. You are a young country where life can be felt pulsating and buzzing in every corner. And the presence of so many young people and so many children is a gift, an immense gift.
The birth of a child, the Pope said, is also a lesson on the importance of making oneself small. Before his departure to Singapore, the Pope met with the Timorese youth where he offered them this advice: make a mess and respect your elders. It's time now for us to take a short break, and when we return, we speak with Acting Prime Minister Stuart Young on the energy sector and the state of the national economy. Before we go, here's a look at this week's trivia question. Stuart Young entered the Parliament in 2014 as an opposition senator, and today, 10 years later, wears the hats of Minister of Energy and Energy Industries, Minister in the Office of the Prime Minister, Member of Parliament for the constituency of Port of Spain North St. Anne's West, Chairman of the People's National Movement, and more recently, Acting Prime Minister. Acting Prime Minister, it's a pleasure to have you. Thank you very much for taking time to be with us today.
Good morning, Neil. Thank you all for having me. It's a great privilege and an honor to be here today.
Prime Minister, this is a Catholic news program, and we know that you're a Catholic and you're practicing Catholic. How has your faith helped you through all of these things that you're doing?
I have to say, and as I was telling a colleague this morning, I've always believed I am simply a vessel of God. So whatever God's will, let it be done. That is part of my morning daily ritual prayers, asking him for the strength to be able to cope with whatever it is that his will is for me, and for it to be done in a satisfactory manner. Faith has played a very important part for me, Neil, but I've also learned having to be able to intermingle throughout Trinidad. And I was fortunate. I grew up not only with a Catholic background, but my mother predominantly, until she converted to Catholicism later on in life, her whole family is Muslim. So I got that exposure as well. And Trinidad is a multifaceted society where just last night I was at a temple in Monroe Road with our Hindu brothers and sisters celebrating a very important part of their annual religious calendar, the celebration of the life of Lord Ganesh. So correct. So, you know, Catholicism has been a great foundation. It is a faith that I still practice, recently having to take both of my sons through their confirmation programs and this type of thing. And I try as often as I can to make it to Mass. But every day, prayer is part of my ritual. And I learned a long time ago, and it fascinates some people. I was once a head altar boy at St. Mary's College, and at a certain period in life, I actually thought I would go on to be priesthood and this type of thing. But I learned at an early stage in life, and I believe it may have been from Father Toba at the time at St. Mary's College, or it might have even been here at Living Waters, that prayer is really how you live your life. So that is what I try to do. So faith plays a very important role, because very often I say, God, how am I going to get through this?
Thanks very much. But let's dive into the thing. Recently, we've heard of the gas production, country's gas production being at its lowest. BP has sold some of its assets. Stork has signaled that it's the potential of laying off its employees. There's the uncertain political situation in Venezuela. Energy remains the lifeblood of this country. Ought the country to be worried? Are you worried? Are you concerned?
It is impossible to predict the future. Let me give you a good example. If you had looked at the global energy landscape, in the last 6 years, the United States was not a huge exporter of oil and gas. Right now, the United States are the largest exporter in the world of both oil and gas. Things can change very quickly, very dynamically. We have worked hard as an administration. I personally have been involved, as has the Honorable Prime Minister, in ensuring we have a future in our energy sector and gas production. I am very satisfied with the work that has been done. So let's touch on what you've raised briefly. The BP Perenco sale is absolutely a good thing for Trinidad and Tobago. That is what you would expect at this stage of our country being a mature province. BP is a huge international global operator. They've been working these assets that they've now sold to Perenco for decades. They are a higher cost operator than Perenco is. Perenco has a lot more cost efficiencies. So as I was explaining last weekend to some people, if BP does something at say $100, Perenco, because of its being small, how nimble it is a cost-efficient operator, may be able to do the same task at $50. So their spend of $100 is going to get you double the amount of productivity. It's as simple as that. And I met with Perenco this week. They are very excited. I am excited. I think it's a good thing for us in Trinidad and Tobago because they are going to take risks. They're going to do workovers. They're going to go after stranded gas in those fields that a large operator like BP would not be able to make it cost effective for. So that's an absolute good thing for us and something I'm happy to see because otherwise it could have meant the shutdown of those assets. That's not happening. Perenco came into Trinidad in 2016 and they have been able to extend the life of all of the assets they've gone after and they've had tremendous success. So they're going to do this with these fields that they've purchased from BP as well. The gas production is all for Trinidad and Tobago. So that's a win-win-win. Win for BP, win for Perenco, win for Trinidad and Tobago. The other issue that you raise with certainty of the future and the geopolitics, geopolitics are uncertain. You just look at what happened overnight almost with the election build-up in the United States with a change of candidate and how things shift. So what you have to do if you're doing your work properly and use the art of diplomacy, which is what the Honorable Prime Minister and myself have done, we have been speaking to people on both sides of the aisle in the United States, both on the Republican side as well as on the Democratic side. We remain engaged. Just this morning before coming here, I was engaged in setting up a meeting with one of the most important people at the U.S. State Department for Energy Affairs globally. And we've agreed, they had asked me if I was coming up to Houston next week because I was carded to speak at one of the largest gas conferences. I couldn't go. And we've agreed that we will meet next week. And that is to continue to stay engaged. This is the U.S. State Department, the person or one of the people in charge of energy. And they know us by first name. And that is the type of relationship we've built there. Venezuela, we continue to maintain a very good relationship with the government of Venezuela. And what we've achieved there for all of the world to see, a 30-year license for Dragon, 30 years, a 20-year license for the Coquina field. And what I could tell the population today is right now where BP is doing the seismic over the Mannequin field. This week, I negotiated and got, with the assistance of Vice President Delcy Rodriguez, who is now the Minister of Energy in Venezuela as well, got their permission to cut out some red tape to get that same seismic vessel over on the Coquina field. This is record time. We signed that license in July, at the end of July this week, and here we are in the middle of September, and there's going to be seismic performed. I met with Shell this week. Work is proceeding full speed ahead on the Dragon field. We're now looking, well, Manatee, they've already taken FID on, but the Dragon field in Venezuela, we are looking now at the dates for the survey vessel that has been retained to go over the Dragon field and making arrangements, and I'm hoping that I myself would be able to go out on that vessel over the famous Dragon field. So when you see companies like BP and Shell, who are global players, pushing full speed ahead, it augurs well for us in Trinidad and Tobago. Can I tell you what I'll be doing at 1 o'clock this afternoon with any degree of certainty, if I'm honest? The answer is no, I may have plans. And that is with everything in life. But I am satisfied as it currently stands. We've done the work. We as a government, the Prime Minister and myself, remain engaged with the decision makers. We have done the work on both sides of the aisle in the United States election, and we, like the rest of the world, are looking on to see what happens. I can also tell the population that we've also reached out to both sides there. We've done the work in Venezuela. We've secured licenses. We continue to have our OFAC licenses from the United States to pursue the gas in Venezuela. All of our eggs, I'll say, Neil, are not in the Venezuelan basket either. Manatee is a field totally in Trinidad. It's going to be the largest development of a hydrocarbon field in decades. Shell, as I said, took FID on that. We've had successful bid rounds, both onshore, shallow water, deep water. We've completed in record time again with BP and Shell the seismic work over those deep water fields. Shell told me this week they're hoping when BP finishes the work that has been done on the Coquina Mannequin field, they are going to take the ship straight away before it goes off back into international waters to do some seismic work over shallow water. So you're seeing these things as the BP Perenco sale and connection. We're seeing recently with one of our small operators, Trinity. There's actually now a competitive bid by Touchstone and by a local company owned by the Brashes. Those things cannot, no matter what the naysayers say, anyone in the energy sector sees only positive there, especially when we've been doing this for over 100 years with oil and decades with gas.
So we, at the moment, the population should not be overly concerned.
I don't think the population should be overly concerned, but yes, you always have a level of concern. Am I personally concerned? I am satisfied that we as a government have been responsible and all of the work to be done has been done. Just this week, the energy sector telling me they've never seen the short amount of time frames for the going out for a bid round, the award of the bid,
so
the blocks, etc.
We've
been able to collapse. So same thing when I came in a few years ago that the energy chamber was calling for less reduced times. Voila, it's done. So those things are good, but let me tell you something, Neil. We as a population have a serious choice we're going to have to make very soon, and that is where my concern lies, because the population needs to decide who can successfully manage this. All of this, if managed properly, is going to bring our production right back up from 2027, go all the way home. So the population needs to decide who out of those that are going to put themselves forward in a general election, because it needs to be spoken about, are going to be elected to manage that. You saw what happened in the period of 10 to 15 when not a single gas contract was negotiated. I have given you a very small snapshot of the exact opposite, not only negotiating here in Trinidad, but in the field of geopolitics, which has not happened before, and the success we've managed to bring.
Let's touch a bit on that geopolitics and the outcome of elections. There is a fear some people have that if Donald Trump were to win the US presidential election, that could impact significantly and to our detriment on the arrangements with Venezuela. Is that so?
But I have just said very clearly, and I'll repeat it because I was trying to speak in a sort of diplomatic language. We've been meeting with the Republicans as well as the Democrats.
Right.
So this is not a government that has put all of its eggs one way or the other. We've done the responsible thing. We've remained engaged with both sides of the aisle in the United States. There are certain people that both sides would listen to, etc. We've had conversations with them. I can't predict what is going to happen, but I'm satisfied that we have done the hard work. We've remained engaged with decision makers on both sides of the aisle, and we look on, like the rest of the world, towards the results of the US politics.
One of the things that the government has done in terms of restructuring and shoring of the energy sector, we are told, was the restructuring of Petrotrin.
Well, two things, correct. Sorry to cut across. The restructuring of Petrotrin
and Atlantic
LNG. Let's touch on Petrotrin first. So when we came in, because what you have had as well is a reduction in your oil production. Petrotrin's refinery, which what was the focal point that it centered around, is built to take 175,000 barrels of oil a day. Mid-2000s, it was up over 100,000. That dropped dramatically because it's a mature province. It becomes more difficult to get oil out. When you pull oil out of the ground, it's not being replaced by anything. You have to go after more prospects. We're a small province. So when you come in the 2015 period, it had dropped down to about 70,000 barrels of oil a day. So you have to make decisions now. And of course, when the price of oil, crude oil, you literally are buying crude oil. If it's 70,000 barrels of oil a day, you're buying 100,000 barrels of oil on the open market, to keep the refinery going. The economics started not to make sense as production went down, as costs went up, because you also were not a cost-efficient operator. The cost of lifting a barrel of oil had become uneconomic because of the type of arrangements that existed in Petrotrin. So there were a lot of difficulties you're facing. When the country started to face billions of dollars in losses, as well as the looming $850 million bond that had to be paid off and a $750 million bond that had to be paid off, and you looked at the economics, you then had the accountant saying, hey, you've been carrying about $4 billion of debt on your books. You need to write that off. You need to impair it and get it off the books. All of those things became the perfect storm. You had to take a difficult decision. Why would we want to close down the refinery if we didn't have to? But if we didn't do it, it would have meant financial collapse, not only for Petrotrin, but for the whole country, because it was so critical to the country. It would mean downgrades. All the international Moody's, the Standard & Poor's, all of them were threatening that if something happened, the government would have to step in. And those are billions of dollars at a time when the price of oil, of course, remember, by 2016, it had gone down to $20 a barrel. Oil prices were collapsing, etc. And it just didn't make economic sense. What did we do? We restructured it. Yes. And I believe we restructured it very successfully. You saw Heritage once again published just a few days ago over $1 billion in profit after about $9 to $10 billion in revenue. They've been paying their taxes. They've been paying their royalties. Paria is doing the same thing. Not a day have we had any disruption in our domestic fuel supply at the pumps, at the airport with aviation fuel, for ships that need fuel. All of that has gone seamlessly. We have had another RFP on the refinery. The cabinet will meet very soon on those things. The evaluation committee has completed its job and is ready to present to us. So those are the things that are happening, very positive. Just on the gas side, the restructuring of Atlantic LNG has never happened anywhere else in the world. I've said this openly, the Prime Minister said this openly. You fact check it, it is a fact. We managed to do that. What that did is it gave an extension of life of investment for Trinidad and Tobago, because what it literally means, one of the things we negotiated is access for third parties. So non-shareholders could find ways now to process their gas at Atlantic LNG and try to commercialize and try to get via contracts cargoes of LNG, etc. So now people are looking to invest, including in the region, because if you get gas there from elsewhere, you're literally processing it, and there are not many countries in the world that have LNG facilities. So all of these things have happened, and it's set up well for the future and currently as well.
And that's a good place for us to end at this point in time, but we hope you'll join us again, perhaps after the budget, to talk about more energy matters in a
I'll be pleased to. And may
Acting
God
Prime
continue
Minister,
to bless us.
Thanks very much for joining us.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
We are taking a leap of faith on Trinity TV. Jump in with us for this new and exciting experience.
This year's Secondary Schools Football League has kicked off. Here's more from editor Raymond Sims.
It was the battle of two Catholic schools last Friday as last season's Premier Division champions Fatima College came up against Presentation San Fernando in the NGC Super Cup. Fatima prevailed when they won 2-1 at the Hazy Crawford Stadium to pocket a $5,000 prize. Luke Correa and Matthew Barrington, with a penalty, scored for Fatima, while Presentation's central defender Cody Cooper scored a consolation goal. There are 16 secondary schools participating in the Premiership, of which 5 are Catholic colleges: Fatima, Presentation, St. Benedict's, St. Mary's, and St. Anthony's. League action began on Wednesday, September 11th and is expected to end on November 1st after 15 rounds. And while much of the spotlight will be on the Premiership, matches are also carded in the Central, East, North, South, and Tobago zones for boys and girls. I am Raymond Sims for Catholic News Altos.
And we stay with Raymond, who gives us a preview of what's in store in this week's Catholic News.
In this week's issue of the Catholic News, read about a publication from a family of Portuguese extract, the Ferreiras, and psychologist and educator Dr. Margaret Naked Chatur lays the case for a different approach in education. I am Raymond Sims, editor of the Catholic News.
And that's a wrap for our show this week. We hope you enjoyed it. We remind you to pray, read your Bible, and learn your faith. And as we go, we leave you with some images of last weekend's harvest in Tortuga.
Altos was brought to you with the kind compliments of Rituals Coffee House.